Hi, Swiatkowski here. Today I have a story for you. Now, this is a story about a young man who was hired by a New Jersey-based mortgage company. And he was hired as a loan officer. He had no experience, totally green. Now, he came on board, he learned all of the loan products, he learned how to take an application, he learned what he needed to do to get out and call on realtors and attorneys and to try to generate business. So when he was finally ready, his manager met with him and he said, here's a booklet I want you to read. This is going to help you in your career as you move forward as a loan officer if you read this. So the young guy said, yeah, okay, I'll take it. And he went on his way to start being able to bring loans in and do exactly what the manager had told him to do, and which he did. He went out and started making all those account calls, and this goes on for months and months, and things just weren't happening. And so about 5 months in, he's pretty frustrated, and he decides he's going to meet with his boss and express his frustration. And he says, listen, I've done everything you said for me to do, and I'm 5 months into this, and I've gotten marginal business out of this. And his manager looked at him and he said, did you read that little booklet I gave you? Well, this young guy starts making some excuses and why he didn't get around to reading it, but the bottom line was he hadn't. So his manager said, look, I want you to read that booklet, and I want you to read it again, and I want you to read it again. It's not very long. And he agreed. And so he went out, started reading the booklet, continued to call on the realtors, continued to try to develop business. But something happened. There was a mindset shift. And then he started seeing business coming in. And then more business came in. And it continued to grow to the point where at the end of his first full year as a loan officer, he was the top producer in that particular branch he was working out of. He was the 9th leading producer in the company. This is after only probably about 18 months of being a loan officer. And they offered him a job to open a branch for them in another area. And I know this story extremely well because that loan officer was me 36 years ago. And that little booklet had such a tremendous impact on me that I want to be able to share it with people. And the name of that booklet was The Common Denominator of Success by Albert Gray. Now, Albert Gray was an insurance industry executive, and he was speaking at a conference of insurance salespeople. And this was his talk. The whole bottom line of this particular booklet is this, that the common denominator of success, the secret of success for every man or woman who has ever been successful, lies in the fact that he or she formed the habit of doing the things that failures don't like to do. Or I will include most everybody else, not just failures, don't like to do things. So, you say, well, what are those things? Well, for salespeople, it would be, getting out and prospecting, perhaps, or making calls, picking up the 500-pound phone, following up the way they should, which is, by the way, one of the things realtors typically get ticked off at loan officers for is lack of follow-up. Another is adding value to their relationships. That takes time and effort. And then asking for the business. There are people who are afraid to ask for the business. But I think this goes beyond just salespeople. There are other things that you need to do that other people do not want to do. And one of those is being introspective, to be able to look at yourself and call yourself out when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Most people do not like to do that. Effective communications. There are so many people who are just ineffective at their communications. You have to push yourself to do that. You have to push yourself to plan, track, and measure what you're doing so you can see your results, that you're moving in the direction of your plan. Also, you need to continue learning and self-develop yourself. Many people don't want to take the time to do that. And maintaining a positive attitude when things are not necessarily going in the right direction. Being consistent. Consistency is huge at all this, and most people do not or cannot get themselves to be consistent. Just like preparation, being prepared for whatever your day is bringing you. You need to have all these things prepared ahead of time. as is with activity management. I was going to say time management, but it's really about your activities that you're managing. And of course, being persistent. That is another big one that most people just don't want to do. They are not able to be persistent. I also think taking ownership of yourself, being responsible for yourself, is another one of those things that most people aren't willing to do, that you do need to do if you're going to be successful. And focusing your efforts, being very, very focused and being solution oriented. Now, there is a reason that you might say that these people are able to do these things, to form the habits of doing things that others don't want to do. Well, what is it? I'll tell you what it is. Successful people have a powerful why. It's the reason that they get up. It's the reason that they will push beyond that resistance that they get and will actually do the things because they have a big enough why that drives them, whether that is to provide a better living for their family, to make sure that their kids can afford a college education, or pay for a wedding, or whatever the reason is. There's got to be a powerful one behind that why that drives people forward. So I will encourage you, look for your why. Figure out what it is you need to do that others are not doing in your business and are not doing well, and push yourself to develop those habits. So with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. If you enjoyed this session, then I would ask you to share it with your business associates, friends, and family. And as always, be well, be safe, and be a leader. Take care. Talk to you in the next episode.